Hi, welcome to another edition of Soul Talk with me, Wes Berwise. Today find us in the heart of the trendy area of Notting Hill Gate as we seek to find out just a little bit more about an artist who started singing when he was 4, wrote his own musical, went on to perform in Broadway, and that's all before he went on to become a Grammy award-winning jazz voice. We're talking about the actor and singer-songwriter, Mr. Gregory Porter.
Unreroute the rivers, let the damned water beat. There's some people down the way that's thirsty, so let the liquid spirit free. The people are thirsty because of man's unnatural hand. Watch what happens when the people catch wind, when the water hits the banks of that hard, dry land. Clap your hands now.
Gregory, fantastic meeting you, sir.
Pleasure, man.
Thank you so much for coming along.
Good to meet you, man.
How was your flight?
Everything was great. There's a firm handshake you got there.
Well, hey.
No, we had a great flight. Everything was cool. I snored for 3 hours, and now I'm here.
Was it in tune or out of tune? Did people complain, or were they sort of got their iPhones close to you?
The interesting thing is the woman didn't tell me that she knew me and that she was a fan until after the flight.
Really?
Yeah, after I had, splayed my legs and snored
and sort of leant on her shoulder all the way through. no word was mentioned, nothing was said.
I saw her doing something, like looking at me. I don't know if she was taking pictures, but she might have been taking pictures or doing videos. So there might be some YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube, Instagram.
Snoring on the way from Oslo to.
Okay. And how did the concert go down last night? How was it?
We had 2 shows in Oslo. They were great, sold out shows, and good energy. Nobody has the energy, put the energy inside of any given space like UK audiences. I don't know what that is, but I have lots of stuff coming up this summer. I'm doing, I'll be in shows with Elton John and Stevie Wonder, and I'm doing the Love Supreme and Brecken, and
it's so interesting listening to you dropping names like Elton John and Stevie Wonder, and if we just transport you back 5 years ago, yeah. Can you imagine sitting in a funky sort of health spa in West London, name dropping like this just 5 years ago? Can you imagine that? No, I couldn't have. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
just how time flies and how things
flies and how things have changed, and I'm still blown away by those names as I mention them now. They don't casually roll out of my mouth.
No, they did. No.
When I heard that Elton John was a fan, I was like, "You a lie and a half." And then somebody was like, "Yeah, no, really." He quoted some lyrics, and I was like, "No, that's really cool."
That's cool. The power of music.
Yeah.
The power of music. 5 years.
I'm in with the in crowd. I go where the in crowd goes. I'm in with the in crowd. I know what the in crowd knows. Any time of the year, don't you hear? Dressing fine, making time.
And I tell you, talking about the number 5 springs to mind as I heard somewhere that's how old you were when you first wrote your first song.
Yeah, it was,
Now I'm intrigued.
It's not a masterpiece, but it's a cute little song.
But you actually sat and wrote it down. It's got like verses and choruses and bridges. And
stuff.
I
sing the whole thing. Once upon a time, I had a dreamboat. Once upon a time, I had a love. Once upon a time, I had a dreamboat, and upon that boat, I found my love. And then was it just a dream that I did love you? It goes on and on.
You wrote a bridge at 5 years old. you seriously?
Where do you get? I don't know where you get it from, or where it comes from. Or I knew nothing about love or dream boats. Had never been on a boat. Had never been in love. What am I talking about?
Could you swim at that time?
No.
So you swim. I still can't boats, swim. Then. You probably knew something about boats, but nothing about love.
No, nothing about love.
So your mother must have been either a great fan of yours or just kept telling you to shut up at 5 years.
No,
because that must be quite painful.
She was intrigued. She was always encouraging when I did something, and so when I did this little recording, she said, "Oh, Belle, you sound like Nat King Cole. Baby, you sound like Nat King Cole." And that was first time I had ever heard his name, and we were forbidden to touch the records, and so that's when I went and dove into.
I've
the
got to say, I'm
records.
going to cut you now. My home was exactly the same. For some reason, we were forbidden to touch the records.
Yeah,
unless guests were coming to the home.
Scratches, man. You know.
What's that?
We were silly. You know, kids. If I could have, I would have eaten off the records and tried to play them. You know, you're silly when you're a kid.
So you were forbidden to touch them, but you crept in and listened to them when she was out. If you did anything like me, you waited until you knew she was out for a certain period of time.
I knew her work schedule. You know.
So you crept in, and one of the records was Nat King Cole?
Yeah, it was. I'm sure there was others. It was Mahalia Jackson. I know she had a lot of gospel, but I put on. It must have been a greatest hits record, you know, because all the hits, you know, Nature Boy, Smile, Pretend, you know.
Wow.
All those tunes came on, and they started to talk to me. My father wasn't raising me, and I just in front of the stereo, I remember it's like feeling like this is like it's like a father talking to you, you know. This voice, you know, those 1970s console stereos.
Oh yeah.
You know, when the music comes out of them, it sounds like the person is like right there. And yeah, it was cool. Cool. I used to imagine Nat King Cole as sit back and check out the album covers and like, yo, that's my 5-year-old head. Yeah. Like this is my father.
That's kind of cool. So do you think that's affected your phrasing and the way you sing, or?
Yeah, I consider Nat King Cole. It's not an imitation. If you would be doing something like Nat King Cole, it's really his own style, own school of style, sliding to a note like you know, it's very Nat King Cole. I love you for sentimental reasons. That's a style. It's Nat King Cole did it, and I stole it.
Whoa, there's nothing new. There's nothing new. But that is so cool for you to sort of even make him your mentor at such a young age.
Yeah.
When you didn't even know what the word mentor meant.
No.
You just thought, that is how I want to sound.
Yeah. That's cool.
So from 5, you sort of carried on doing your music, doing what kids do when they're growing up.
And I listen to. I'm not a Nat King Cole head. Only thing that I'm listening to. I'm listening to Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, everything that's on the radio.
The gospel.
OJs.
What about the gospel as well?
The gospel. I'm singing gospel in church.
Okay. All right.
Mahalia's blasting in the house with my mother. You know, all of it. The full musical experience from the '70s soul, Marvin Gaye, Donny Hathaway. I'm getting all of that.
And people are much too much for me to face. I climb way up to the top of the stairs, and all my cares just drift right into space. On the roof, it's peaceful as can be. Where the world below can't bother me. Oh, let me tell you when.
So when do you think you made a decision in your head that music might be one of the things you want to do? Like to do?
It was so far away from me, so far. I remember being in high school, not thinking that was an accessible thing. You're in certain places geographically, and you can't fathom. I could never fathom London, walking around in London, having tea and
champagne.
Scones and clotted cream.
Champagne.
And champagne.
Yeah, it's going to go on. We bought the champagne. We want to mention it. Sorry.
These experiences that I've had, I couldn't have fathomed. And so music was just the same way. I was like, yes, I sing, but how do you have a career that can sustain you? How does that happen? And it happened organically in a way for me.
I found that really interesting because I was obviously knew I was going to be meeting you today, so I thought, let me just check out this guy and see a little bit of his background. Yeah. And I was checking in, I saw that you sort of followed the way we all go to school, You enjoyed yourself. You did what young men do. Then decided perhaps you should play American football.
Yeah, well, I was an athlete, from 5 as well, but but never in the thing is about sports. If you're good at it, you don't have a choice.
Is that the way it goes in America? That's
Pretty
so
much.
Interesting.
If you're big and fast, it's kind of okay. Yeah, well, this is what you got to do. You got to run track. You got to play football, and you got to do basketball. I happen to love them,
Right.
but if I did want to say I want to stop all of this and just concentrate on singing,
No way. That wouldn't have worked.
yeah, get out of here. Man.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked.
Music was always part of my life and my love, and I played football, and I was able to get a football scholarship at San Diego State University. I injured my shoulder and wasn't able to play anymore.
Dislocated? When you say injured, talk to me about the injury. Was it just literally
dislocated
Really?
Dislocated
Okay.
my shoulder.
Dangling
dangling. Abnormally low arm.
Okay.
Your arm is dragging on the ground.
Yeah, it's probably
Your knuckles
at
are
that
dragging
stage
on
you've
the
worked out
ground.
there's probably something wrong.
Yeah. When the
Yeah.
knuckles are dragging
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
ground, you're
yeah.
like, okay, this is not good.
Yeah, this is not good.
And so, I wasn't an athlete anymore because this thing wasn't working. And so, my friends changed, my schedule changed in a way because they have, those were your friends. You worked out together. You went to study hall together. You went to meetings. You went to practice. I wasn't doing that
And
anymore.
now you're out of shape now. They continue to do what they got to do, and you're in the library.
I'm in the library. It's so funny you say that. There was a music library at San Diego State that I had to lie to get into. I was like, oh, I'm a music major. Let me in here. And I did. I was like, I just didn't bring my ID this time.
You kept forgetting to bring the ID.
Yeah, and they gave me a temporary ID
okay.
that I used for 2 years. And I was going in and listening to Nat King. It was a painful time. The injury, and my mother was diagnosed with cancer. And this little closet that was a music listening room was my little space. I was therapy in a way. I would go and Nat King Cole albums, Lambert, Hendrick, and Ross. They had everything, all the soul records too. Andy Bay,
So
Sarah Vaughan.
You were there on your own, just headphones on,
Headphones
in another
on,
world.
In another world. Yeah. I would,
Did you
do my
feel at that
homework
point
there.
you were consciously learning your craft, or was it, I'm just enjoying myself? I enjoy being here. I can't be there, so listen, I'm going to enjoy this. And just, what was running through your mind at that time? Were you thinking, I've noticed the way he sings that note. Perhaps I want to take that one on.
Well, this is what I do. I'm listening to the whole canon. I'm listening to everything. I think something that I have in me that I do. I sometimes prefer a subconscious learning, like immersion in a way. I like that, and I like the fact that I was probably learning. 30 songs a week. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. But it wasn't. It didn't feel like studying.
It wasn't word for word. It was just seeping.
It didn't feel like studying. It was just like, this is how.
Just washing over you.
Just wash it right. It in a way, using it as a part of my culture instead of this. This academic thing of like, okay, I've got to do this. Instead, I just let it seep in that way. The intensity of the study is just as hard. Yeah. But for me, in a way, I love it more.
So the more that seeped in, the less you miss sports. Is that fair, or were you still sort of needing to get back there, just still with that shoulder thinking?
That's fair. No, but running around with an unstable body part is not cool. So I was like, okay, I gotta. Things are gonna change, but
how did your mother take that one? When you looked like there was a career path here,
she was great. I remember being on the phone crying. I was like, "Mom, my shoulder is messed up," and she was like, "So you still get your scholarship, and they don't hit you in the head anymore, And I was like, yeah, that's the situation. She's like, great.
That must have been so reassuring as well, for you to hear that as well.
No.
Why not?
Because I had a plan, and I thought it was, to continue on with this football career, and it was snuffed out. Things were changed. She was, mothers are always just wiser than their boys, and so she saw that, this is an opportunity for you to open up and see what other opportunities come your way. The academics were still there, and then the music just came to me. I mean, I was using music as a solace to feel better, and all of a sudden, my friends started to become saxophone players and piano players, and I immersed myself into that world completely.
1960 what? 1960 who? 1960 what? 1960 who? Hey, the Motor City is burning. That ain't right. 1960 what? 1960 who? 1960 what? 1960 who? Hey, the Motor City is burning, y'all. That ain't right.
So from there,
Jam
got engrossed, got into jam sessions, and that was with some of your friends who were doing sax and whatever.
But listen,
where were you based then?
San Diego, Southern California.
Yeah.
This is a long time. I mean, it was just like it was a.
Over what period of time would you say? Over a period of, I would guess, 6-7 years.
Keep going. It's like I was doing some theater in between that time.
All right.
And so that, there was some positive things, really positive things that were happening career-wise, but nothing substantial. I guess I was about 30 when I said I had this thing about my father came back. This thing with Nat King Cole came back. I had this is the honest to goodness truth, this pain in my chest, and I didn't know what it was. And I started to express myself in writing, and in the back of my head, I was like, I want to do a theater piece about Nat King Cole. And as I would talk to people about doing a theater piece about Nat King Cole, they would ask me, how'd you get into Nat King Cole? Mm-hmm. And I'd tell them my story about 5 years old. I essentially gave them the script to my play, Nat King Cole and Me. So after I tell them this Nat King Cole story, well, I was 5 years old. My mother said, boy, you sound like Nat King Cole. I used to imagine Nat King Cole as my father as I listened to the music. People looked at me, that's your story. That's your story. Not a bio piece about Nat King Cole. Your story is Nat King Cole's music and how the power and the ability of music to heal, the ability of music to do other things than what it was intended for. Yes, it's entertainment, but it's a deeper thing. He wrote and sang those songs not for a 5-year-old boy sitting next to a console stereo. He wrote those songs to be played on the radio, to do what they do, for music to do what it does. But I was listening to it when I was 5 and 6. This is my daddy, and I was cultivating, unbeknownst to me, I was cultivating a whole thing, my ear training and all of it was coming from these records, So yeah.
So from the theatre, where were you doing when you first did the Nat King Cole and I? Where was that?
That was in Denver.
That was in Denver.
Denver Center.
So when did you then move over to New York to get involved in doing theatre over on off Broadway? When did you get? Because you must have been good at this. Because it's really interesting.
I did a couple of plays.
No, the reason I'm saying it is because it's this whole side of your career has been glossed over. No one discusses it. And I think to myself, hang about a minute.
Well, you know what?
If I was any good,
maybe it was because of me. I said because you can get into that theater conversation and it can swallow up what I'm trying to do with the music, man.
Yeah, but we want to know a little bit more about you, because you're going to be discussing, Liquid Spirit until the cows come home, or until you bring a new album out. Okay. So we're going to find. So we're just trying to delve in and try and understand, because you obviously well, we've got plenty of champagne, Greg, so don't you worry. But the interesting thing is that you're obviously good at the theatre, because you must have been for it to sustain you and then move you to another city.
Yeah.
No one ever mentions that. It's like, oh, yeah, he did a bit of theatre and then he popped up and someone heard him and you think, well, hang on. There's so many out-of-work actors around.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you.
He managed to sustain himself over a period of time to move to 2 or 3 different cities, end up playing off and on Broadway.
Yeah. And
get a Tony Award.
Well, I think that's... No, I didn't get a Tony Award. Nominated for a Tony. You be careful what's on Wikipedia.
Thank you. There you go. So you were nominated. So people had their eyes on you at that period of time, not as a headline singer, but as an actor.
Right.
An actor.
Right. Absolutely. And I tell you what happens with theater. The theater, though, the energy of press and attention comes about for 2-3 months. While that piece is out, and then once the show ends, crickets. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so there has to be something else. You understand what I'm saying? I'm sure that's entertainment. That's entertainment. But for me, the theater was another avenue to just express myself musically and emotionally. I may be bringing some of those elements that I use in theater into my music. That's for someone else to say. But I had some success, both on small level and then doing Broadway in New York. But were
you still thirsting to become this jazz singer?
Yes, both of it's like, in a way, theater had started to get in the way of music, because when I wanted to have time to cultivate the band, to cultivate the writing, and have it be an organic process, this theater job would come along for 3-4 months and and say no. Okay,
so from the theater, things started to change.
Yes, well, I got some attention, and in a way, performance confidence, and confidence is everything in a way for music, because there's many talented people, but the ability to go out and essentially be naked on stage emotionally night after night has to come, the ability to do that has to be cultivated somewhere. Right. And I'm thankful to theater for that. I'm thankful to my experiences as a child in church for that. Anywhere where you have to just expose yourself.
Right. Hey, Laura, it's me. Sorry, but I had to ring your doorbell so late. But there's something bothering me. I really am sorry, but it just couldn't wait. Is there someone else instead of me? Go ahead and lie to me and I will believe you're not in love with him, and this fool can see.
How were you discovered? Put it in your own words, because I've read so many different things. I've heard it mentioned that you got involved in Law's Family.
Listen,
and they heard you.
In a musical career, there's so many stops and starts, and so when they say career, it's stops and starts. They should call it musical stops and starts, because yes, I did a recording with Hubert Laws, and I thought, I was like, oh, Hubert's friends with Quincy. Maybe Quincy will hear it and snatch me up and turn me into something. Mm-hmm. But it was one of Hubert's private productions, and maybe maybe Herbie heard it and Quincy Jones heard it, and they were like, okay, nice kid, yeah, keep it moving. You know what I mean? I had an opportunity to perform and sing with his brother, Ronnie Laws.
Okay.
And I was working in the theater piece, It Ain't Nothing But the Blues, around the country and on Broadway with his sister, right. Eloise Laws, and Deborah Laws. You know, very special.
Yeah, you're very special.
That's a very special family, period.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so there was some opportunities and things that were happening, and some things. So like, okay, this is what's going to happen. You know, this record deals were showing up and disappearing for a long time, and I know that happens to a lot of people, a lot of artists. We're like, okay, and you think you're moving, but you're moving down a street that it's a dead end.
I heard that the track 1960 Watt is what kind of got people focusing on you and thinking, hang on, there's something about this guy.
Yeah, that would be true. Now I was singing in a little club in Harlem for a couple of years before I did my record, and I was singing that song. I was singing other songs, you know, but the energy that tune, you know, every musician would want to get up on it. Sometimes we would have nights where that song would go 45 minutes because every horn player would want to get their rocks off on it. You know, this is like, you know, and yeah, you know, once I recorded that song, and once, you know, and the remix as well helped me bring it to a lot of ears in the UK and all over Europe, really.
Right. And it's interesting you should mention that, because, you know, from the first album, Water, through to Be Good, and now to Liquid Spirit, your Grammy nominations, and then actually finally winning the Grammy. Yeah. So quickly. That takes us all the way back to us sitting down, drinking champagne and name dropping with Elton John again, because 5 years ago, if someone had walked up and said, listen, not only will you be nominated for a Grammy, you're actually going to win one. Yeah.
No, so it's surreal. It really is surreal. And because I've gone through, you know, this years of lack, where the performances weren't happening, where I was idle, and I didn't feel like I should have been, but I was idle. And you know, in those times, I couldn't fathom that. I couldn't fathom the Grammy. I couldn't fathom, you know, 3 days ago, I was invited to Quincy Jones, his house. Okay. I don't know if you call that thing a house.
Probably a mansion.
Mansion.
Yeah.
But then it's not, you know, in your mind, a mansion is like this. But it's like this, you know. So yeah, I guess it's a mansion in Beverly Hills.
Will you be working with Quincy in the future?
Well, who's to know? It's come to find out he's you know, he's listening. He's listening to what's going on to the young artists, right. And he gave me some compliments that'll stay with me for the rest of my life.
That's
you
wonderful.
Know, he's like, you know, he said it'd be good. He's like, that's one of the best songs I've heard in many, many years. And Quincy Jones is listening. And so, whether, you know, he's flattering or whatever,
he doesn't need to.
He don't need to. Quincy could tell me, "Get your life together," and I'd be cool with that too. Yeah. But he gave me some real and genuine compliments, and really a master, not even a pillar. Just like he's more than a pillar of the music; he's a foundation of the music.
The word legend is thrown around easily nowadays, but he's someone you can use that word over and over again and still feel you're not paying dues to him properly. Yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So anyway, couldn't fathom this meeting, this 3-hour conversation with Sharon, eating off the same plate of salmon and grapes, and just wild. But I did, you know, my mother was like, you know, Gregory, she used to say when I was 5 and 6, she's like, Gregory, your gift will give you space at the table with kings. And so, you know, that's happened for me, you know, when I mention these names, Elton John, Stevie Wonder, you know, Quincy Jones.
Well, listen, there are many people out there who would, who would put you in amongst those.
Be good is her name. And I sing my lion song and brush my mane. She would, and she could. So she pulled my lion's tail and caused me pain.
You seem to be collaborating with so many different people.
Yeah.
What have we got to look forward to?
Perfect collaborations that people hear in their heads and in their ears may not be able to happen until there's time. But the collaborations I've done, I enjoy. I enjoy working with different people from all different genres. I did a Christmas album with Renee Fleming, a extraordinary opera singer. You know, there's some conversations about some hip hop cats and Laura Mavula is incredible.
Yeah. You also mentioned Van Morrison as well. The
Oh,
legend
yeah, I recorded with him
Really?
Recently. But Van is one of those people. It's like the recording happened. He's got stuff in the can that's already. He's probably got a recording with him and Stevie Wonder somewhere. You know what I mean? I think it's going to come out, and hopefully it comes out.
So what's exciting you at the moment? You're here, you're doing your gigs, you're rushing around, still talking about Liquid Spirit. It's literally, it's a fantastic CD. I can understand why everybody wants to discuss it. We've not discussed that much today, have we?
Yeah, we didn't.
I know, but I thought we'd make a change.
Yeah, it's
Make a
okay.
personal change. We're aware that it exists.
We'll do this again.
Yeah, we'll do this again. We're aware that it exists. But what's exciting you right now, as far as you're concerned, within the next 2 months? You mentioned
continuing to play this record and play songs from Be Good and Water,
right,
and to continue to write. Be Good, Liquid Spirit came about on the road.
Really?
The song Liquid Spirit, I was on a train. Wolf Cry, I was on a train. These songs came about while in motion, moving around the world. That sounds funny, but yeah, moving around the world and experiencing life, remembering both the joys and heartache of my life, experiencing people, beauty, wisdom, all of that. I think it informs me. I try to stay open and dynamic to what's happening to me every day. Fortunately, and unfortunately, I have a big heart and I fall in love easily. But that
reminds me of one of your tracks.
Yeah, it can create in me an instant passion to write about something based on either physical beauty or natural beauty, And so I don't shy away from any of those emotions that come my way anymore.
You don't feel uncomfortable sometimes making yourself feel vulnerable by discussing these issues?
No, I don't think so. I let it all come and see. Maybe it just won't be. Maybe the melody sucks and it won't make a record. But I want to write about jealousy, vulnerability. That's probably something that I'm probably strong at. Dealing with masculine vulnerability. I probably Be Good, Wolf Cry. Those are probably songs psychologically that deal with masculine vulnerability. So I'll probably continue to do that. That's probably something that exists in me.
Well, I think it's a really interesting trait to exist in a gentleman, because I think that's one of the reasons why men can relate to your music just as well and just as quickly as ladies can relate to it.
Right. You're still a lion.
Yeah.
But you got injured a little bit.
These things happen. Listen, it's been wonderful you come along today. Really appreciate it.
More champagne, please.
That'll be coming, sir. But really,
champagne. Where's the champagne?
Really appreciate the time which you've spent with us. Really, I feel cheated in that you've got to go so soon.
Yeah.
Hopefully another time.
Me too. I'm enjoying myself, man.
Yeah, we'll do it again another time. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Pleasure, man.
Thank you.
I've never seen my name in such glittery gold so many times. What you got here? Quality, man. Exclusively customized for Gregory Porter. Awesome, man. Thank you.
Well, it's the least we can do.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this.